Welcome back to another episode of Astrology with Alice. I'm here with my good friend and fellow astrologer, Maxine Twigg. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so crazy being here. It's such a pinch me moment.
Oh, for everyone that doesn't know, what is your sun, moon, and rising?
Okay, so I'm a Libra rising, Taurus sun, and Gemini moon.
Also, where is your chart ruler? That's another question I've been liking to ask.
So my chart ruler is Venus, and it's in Taurus in the 8th house. So at home.
So you have, that's a great placement to have chart ruler in the sign it rules, but you have your sun and your chart ruler in the 8th.
Yes.
What is that like? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah. I feel like there's been such an 8th house emphasis throughout my life. I've always been naturally drawn to psychology and understanding people better. So I think it really plays out in my day-to-day job of UX design, and then also with astrology. It's all about understanding people.
Yeah, before I met up with you today, I was like, oh, I actually didn't realize she has that much emphasis on her 8th house. And I was thinking how it would play out maybe in the long term for you. And I feel like when Saturn goes into Taurus, your 8th, you could create, I don't know, it's just such an entrepreneurial placement, a lot of 8th house emphasis.
Yeah, that's true.
Creating something of your own maybe in the near future.
And you also have 8th house emphasis, right?
Yeah, moon and Venus. We both have Venus there. Oh my God. We have, this is what our episode is about today, how we share very, very similar chart placements. But before we get into that, just wanted to talk about how we know each other. I feel like we've gotten closer over a longer period of time. When did we first start talking? 2022?
Probably. I started out as such a super fan of yours. And we got introduced by our really good friend, Daniela, who's
my brand designer.
Amazing design.
She does yours too, right?
No, I've kind of been doing mine on my own.
Okay.
But we just started out as friends through that.
And I feel like we connected because we share similar pop culture interests with astrology. I remember I posted about the Glossier not memoir, but biography about Emily Wise. And I was talking about the astrology, and you were so into it. And it's just fun to talk about, I don't know, reality TV and all of that stuff.
And maybe that's also our 8th house. We're really trying to understand the psychology of the way people are acting and the patterns. And reality TV is such a good way to do that. I feel like we also talked about Love Island at some point.
Yeah. And I was also going to say, understanding why someone got to where they are is an 8th house thing. Just digging deeper. I want to go back to, how you first got into astrology. When did this become an interest of yours?
It's crazy because I think I've been studying it quietly, on my own pretty much my whole life.
Okay, and, whoa. Even in, middle school, high school?
In high school, it probably started as very basic pop culture level of understanding. And in my family, my mom is also super into Vedic astrology. So I had kind of a introduction through that, and then started doing chart readings pretty casually for my friends throughout my early 20s. And it was always something that I was trying to learn more about and practice a little bit deeper. And then probably in 2024, when the nodes were hitting my 1st and 7th house.
Okay, yeah. And Aries, Libra, eclipses.
Jupiter moved into my 9th house in Gemini. It was this creative burst of wanting to turn my interests with music and also astrology into something that was for other people and sharing it. So that was kind of how Cosmic Cocktails was born.
Yeah, because you have a lot of different interests that you blend with astrology. You're a DJ. That's a hobby. That's a side business basically at this point. And then you also, I don't know, kind of going along with party life, DJing is Cosmic Cocktails, how you're also interested in using astrology to make mixed drinks and stuff like that. But then that's also what you call your readings is Cosmic Cocktails.
Yeah.
I love this branding.
It's a lot of emphasis on, so in 2024, I was going out a lot and partying a lot and felt really creatively inspired by that whole scene and the people I was meeting and the music that I was listening to. And it kind of came as a way of like exploring that in a more creative way and sharing it with people that were interested in astrology, and kind of found a way to like practice my readings through that like fun, lighthearted lens of like blending it with the nightlife.
And you were also making like mixes, like music. Yeah. I don't know the right terminology for this. Mixes, playlists on Spotify based on like what zodiac season it is.
Yeah. So I found DJing at the same time. It was very Gemini moon of me to be like, I want to explore these two things at the same time.
Yeah.
And blended it. So I was making for each zodiac season a set on SoundCloud for each zodiac sign.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I like how you blend all these different interests together. And you have like a Cancer midheaven, right? So the ruler of your midheaven is that moon in Gemini, which speaks to like, yeah, you have so many different, I don't know, whenever people have that like Gemini emphasis.
Constant stimulation or I'm going to get bored, and a lot of variety.
Exactly. Oh my God. So when did you, in 2024, was that when you were like, okay, maybe I should start charging people to give them readings, like taking it more seriously in that way?
Yeah, I'd done so many of your courses and then just studied astrology for years that also, two of my roommates were also Libra risings. So practicing on the three of us was something that really helped me develop my astrology practice.
Yeah.
And then just like reading for friends of friends, it started to evolve kind of naturally where people were like, this is really valuable. You should charge for this.
That's kind of how it was with me. It was just like an interest that evolved like in a supernatural way. I was going to say, with the two roommates that were also Libra risings, were you guys all noticing similar things happening?
Yeah.
Because you have the same houses activated?
I think you probably can relate to this because our friend Daniela is also a Leo rising.
Yeah.
So it's like whenever a transit is occurring, you're feeling the emotions in a very similar way. It might be playing out in different situations, but the underlying tone and emotions are so similar.
Yeah.
And I guess because we have a really similar chart setup because we're all 97, 96.
Okay, yeah.
It's
you all
really
have like Saturn and Aries then? Interesting. Yeah, I love that, connecting with people who have the same rising, because even though it's not the same exact circumstance, like you were saying, like very similar feelings at the same time.
Yeah, and it's so valuable to listen and learn from someone who's going through something similar.
Yeah. So as you've gotten more practice giving astrology readings, niching down into like what specific areas you want to go into, what's like I don't know, what topics with astrology have interested you the most, or like what have you wanted to go further with?
I think off the top of my head, I love solar returns, and that's always a technique I'll bring in like with a transit chart and then lunar return charts as well.
So timing.
Yeah.
Different
timing techniques are super interesting and valuable. And I think people generally are coming to me in a period of transition or needing some guidance on like the direction that they should focus their energy in. So something that I really enjoy is like you have this happening in your 6th house, like you should pay attention to that, and this is where you're going to get like fruitful results in the next few months.
Yeah, we have similar interests in that way too. Always trying to like help people through like what's coming up and what they're currently experiencing.
Yeah.
I want to pivot and talk about how we have like, I guess the main bulk of our conversation is like difficult chart placements and how we've dealt with those throughout our lives. We share this placement of like Mars, Chiron, and Saturn. Even though we have different rising signs, all of these fall in different signs. We both have Mars in the 12th house. We both have Saturn in the 7th house. And we both have Chiron in our 1st. How close is Chiron to your ascendant?
It's not that close. It's my ascendant's 3 degrees and Chiron's 27.
Okay. I mean, still though.
But it's still in
prominent.
The 1st house.
Yeah. And do you have anything else in Libra? Or that's like...
that's it.
So that's the planet or the asteroid that's like rising. Yeah, same for me. I want to ask you like how you've experienced these. So we could start off with Chiron. Like with Chiron in the first house, I guess I wanted to give like I don't know how we have the same placement, but how it may have manifested differently for each of us. And also maybe what Chiron transits look like for people. What have you, I don't know, what are the challenges you associated with that chart placement?
I think Chiron specifically is such an internal planet or asteroid. And for me, it really manifested in like as a child and into early adulthood, having a lot of insecurities about the way that I'm perceived by others and feeling super shy growing up, not wanting to talk, not wanting to
That's how I was
be
too.
visible, which is so interesting in Leo, which is the total opposite of that.
Yeah, it's like I want to, but also just like having in the first house, it's like wanting to be seen, but then being afraid of being seen. Like that's interesting you brought up the being shy in school, because I would never raise my hand in class because I didn't want to draw attention to myself.
Same.
Like I would get in trouble. I would get a worse grade just because I refused to raise my hand.
Participation was always like, Maxine needs to talk more. We want to hear what she's saying.
Oh my God.
Another interesting thing, I wonder if you've experienced this, but growing up, I also looked so much younger at every single age.
No,
at like 16, that was really not a fun experience to have when you look like 5 years younger.
Wait, this is crazy that you're saying this exact same thing, because I just recorded and put out an episode on Chiron, and I was talking about my experience with it in the first house, and one of the things I said was like being insecure because I always looked younger.
Exactly.
And then when you get to an age where it's like, guys should think you're hot. Like, no, that was never the case.
That was never.
And I feel like those early, like, teenage or preteen years, like, those feelings stick with you. So it's like, even though I do look my age now, I think I do.
You still look young.
Yeah. It's still like those feelings of not, I don't know, being behind in that way.
Totally. I think it carries to feeling like you're behind or feeling less mature than the people around you, which I don't think is true for you.
Yeah. No, I get that sometimes. Yeah.
That's like an internal thought that I think comes up sometimes for me.
It's interesting how we both, as well, like as we've gotten older, we've chosen to like put ourselves out there more on the internet, like through social media, me through this podcast, like things like that. So it's really kind of learning how to conquer the fears of Chiron. Like if, I don't know, if like 7th grade me saw me talking in a public setting, they'd be like, what the fuck?
Same.
Yeah.
No, literally. I think it's also interesting because Chiron is the point of where you can have greater healing for the collective or other people. So by overcoming those insecurities or even just talking about them, you're helping other people, which is such a big part of your work, I think.
Yeah, like working as an astrologer, and you have those interests too. Curious to see what we do throughout the course of our life, like even at like our Chiron returns when we're 50, like how it becomes more relevant even. Like when you had the eclipses happen in Libra, did you notice like, okay, I'm having to like face this Chiron fear front on and like get over myself in some ways?
I didn't think about that, but I think the 1st and 7th house eclipses were such a pivotal point in my life, and when I discovered DJing, when I started Cosmic Cocktails, and both of those things I was really like excited by and loved working on behind the scenes, but the scary part was putting it out there for people to see and critique and
getting over that fear, initial fear. I remember when I had eclipses to Chiron in my first house in Leo, and I guess they're coming up again soon, but like having to get more comfortable being alone during that time, and like that feeling really painful at first, like I don't know, difficult dating experiences making me be alone, but then ultimately finding astrology and feeling like I'd healed parts of myself through that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think for me it was less about spending time alone and more about being okay with other people perceiving the true version of me and kind of getting over the like filters and masks that I'm putting out to make other people feel comfortable. or like adjusting myself, which is very Libra.
Yeah.
To please everyone else.
Yeah, because we have it in different signs. So yours might manifest more in like the other people type of way, where mine maybe more with it in Leo, like self-expression, like creativity. And so we also have Saturn sitting opposite to Chiron in the 7th house. And you're currently at the start of your Saturn return because you have Saturn and Aries in your 7th. How have you, I guess I want to talk first about that natal placement of Saturn in the 7th and just like Saturn in general in the birth chart.
Yeah.
What have you noticed the most with Saturn in your 7th?
Saturn is such an interesting planet. And I think having it on an angle gives it that extra emphasis.
Yeah.
And I think when I think back to how Saturn felt in like my chart, in my early 20s and in like younger college years, dating felt like something that was super like hard to access, or just something that was like riddled with so much anxiety. And then I would have a lot of flings or experiences where there was a lot of heartache, but nothing ever materialized into anything solid and committed. So it was frustrating.
That was literally the same experience for me. I think taking it too seriously, that's a Saturn trait of wherever it's located in everyone else's chart. But like with us having it in the relationship sector, it would be like I would go on one date with someone and then I'd be like, oh, you're still talking to other people? Like, what? Like, I thought, no, I'm
fall in love with me immediately.
Exactly. Yeah. And just kind of having those, never stepping back to think like, is this person right for me? But just like, oh, this should be serious now because we've been on like one date.
Yeah. I think it was really tough to even evaluate whether I liked the other person. The focus was much more about like, okay, do they like me? Will we end up in a relationship? Which might also be our Venus placements in the 8th house, which adds that level of like intensity. And
it's crazy how we have the same approach to relationships.
And then I think I just like took a step back and really for the last few years haven't dated much at all.
Yeah.
Which has been really nice for my mental health. But I feel like I've also gone in the other extreme where I'm like super avoidant of dating. And it is something I want, but it now feels like maybe even more daunting to dip my toe back into that.
I wonder when Saturn goes retrograde this year, because I do feel like when these outer planets, or just planets in general, station retrograde, and that retrograde begins in a new house and sign of your chart, because it had just entered Aries back in February. If you start to see like those 7th house themes, like, oh, dating is becoming more relevant during that retrograde, but maybe it feels like a test or kind of frustrating. Because I was the same as you. Like, I had a Saturn return in the 7th house, and right while Saturn was in the 6th house, those like 3 years, no dating whatsoever. Didn't talk to anyone. And then the second Saturn entered the 7th and stationed retrograde, it was like people coming out of like nowhere.
Okay.
So you got to keep us posted.
I will. That could be fun.
Have you started to see a shift in mindset at all towards like that natal Saturn placement?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this.
Yeah.
But the only books I've been reading in the last few months since Saturn entered Aries in February have been all about like relationships, deconstructing relationships, or romance. And that's super different than the books that I was reading before that. So I feel like I'm mentally more interested in just the topic of relationships and understanding like breakups, psychology behind it. And it's just something that I want to read more about. So maybe
wanting to better understand.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And then I guess we'll get to this in a second, but the ruler of your 7th is Mars in the 12th. So that also brings a different aspect to it. You're your day chart, right? So technically Mars would be like the more difficult of the malefics out of Mars and Saturn. As we get into Mars, like, do you notice, I don't know, one of those malefic planets being more challenging for you in general?
I think Mars transits are just never my favorite wherever it's placed, especially Mars retrogrades. I feel like I have a really hard time with that period of time where things just feel super slowed down, frustrating, and just like a slog.
Yeah, I think even though I'm a night chart and Mars is supposed to be more beneficial, I think just because I have Saturn like in the sign of its domicile in my chart, like I have a better relationship with it. Whereas Mars, it's like there's really not a lot of strength with that.
And it's in our 12th house, which feels so hidden. Yeah. And for me, I think that manifests in feeling really conflict avoidant and just the idea of conflict, aggression, anger, standing really up scary. For myself. All of those things are not things that I feel a natural inclination towards. Or
do you find that by being conflict avoidant, though, you end up creating conflict? Because that's what I like. People hate that I'm like that, so then it creates more tension.
Definitely in my earlier 20s, that was a theme. I would just like ghost people or ghost friends when there was definitely a conversation I should have had, and maybe we could have moved past things.
Yeah, I was also going to say, how have you noticed Mars with like mental health?
It's so crucial. I think for me, especially coming out of like this 6th house emphasis that we've had for the last few years, mental and physical health have been the main focus. And I think a lot of that comes with having Mars in Virgo in the 12th house. There's such an emphasis around like my mind and mental state needs to feel balanced and clear in order for me to feel like I'm functioning at my best.
Do you have to be alone a lot? I feel like with Mars on the 12th, I have to be alone to like, regain
I need
energy.
So much alone time. I didn't think of that, but I need a lot of alone time.
Also with work, I'm just trying to get a grasp on like Mars in the 12th house, what we have in common. Are you someone that works in like short bursts, or do you have like sustained energy that gets you throughout the day?
I think I have sustained energy, but it has to be at like an optimal time. Like I need to feel level-headed and put the right structures in place that make me feel organized and balanced.
Yeah.
Especially with Virgo, it's so detail-oriented that I think having a Gemini moon and then Mars in Virgo, I can get overwhelmed pretty easily if things aren't in order.
Okay, because your moon squares Mars. My moon trines Mars, but I still notice it as like, I don't know, emotions come on very strong with that placement. Like very easy to get worked up.
And I think whenever my mind is like overworking, which I can overthink a lot, I have a tendency to spiral in my own mind. If I let that get out of control, that's when it'll lead to like insomnia and more difficult things.
Yeah. I also want to decipher between like how Mars and Saturn can be the most difficult chart placements for people and like how they differ. Like what types of different kind of scenarios do they bring up? Like I think we touched upon this a bit with Saturn of like how wherever Saturn is in your chart may feel, I don't know, restricted or like you take it a little bit too seriously and feel held back, like but like you're holding yourself back almost. Whereas Mars, again, maybe this is because I have Mars in the 12th house. It's just like really hard to understand what it's trying to teach me.
No, I agree. I think for me, Mars feels like it's trying to create structure and order in Virgo, where like when I'm focusing on things that are all about like, for example, in my day job, doing UX design and understanding what people want and then like breaking it down into systems and like consumer journeys or flows. That's something that I think my Mars in Virgo is actually where it becomes a strength.
Okay. Do you think like a Mars placement also shows like impatience or like, I guess, a tendency to get aggressive? I would say like those are when I think of Mars, those might be the more challenges that come up.
Yeah, I think it's all about your drive and how you go about conflict and expressing like your desire, energy, aggression in like a healthy way.
Yeah.
So it really depends on like the sign it's placed in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard with it being in the 12th house. You're like, how do I understand this?
I know. We need more people to weigh in on like 12th house is just hard to understand in general. But because you brought up like you've had eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, you're 6th and 12th the last 2 years, and you feel like you've gotten more in touch with that natal placement.
Yeah, I think specifically with the 12th and 6th house emphasis, health has been such a focus, and finding like holistic alternatives to health and wellness practices has been something that's really helped like calm my mind, calm like health issues that have come up in the last few years. And that's been, I think, a lesson of having like also my north and south node in those houses.
Oh, you have that natally too.
Mm-hmm.
Is North Node in
Virgo
in the 12th?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. I feel like this is a question I get a lot. Like, what is the meaning of North Node in 12, South Node in 6, or reversed even? Do you find it's always like trying to strike a balance between like rest and work and productivity, and then mental and physical health?
It's kind of confusing as a Libra rising because everything's in its opposite sign. Yeah. So for me...
Right, because like an Aries rising technically associated with like the first.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of about like blending both 12th and 6th house themes of like the 12th house of spirituality, the abyss, and the 6th house of like being more rooted in like day-to-day life, healthy habits. And I think like blending the two, finding like holistic practices that really work and support me with having those like day-to-day routines and structures and finding order in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I also wonder if like the 12th house theme of like helping people plays into like work interest too. Maybe we didn't even touch upon this, like how you still work a corporate job, but you do astrology on the side. Like, I wonder if that'll be something that comes up at a later date of like, oh, I want to like make this more my career.
Yeah, I think the North Node is where you're heading in your life's direction. So you're constantly going to find ways that are like pulling you towards more 12th house themes for me. And then I think balancing the like corporate job with all of these interests is probably attributed to my Gemini moon. Yeah. And needing constant stimulation. And also just like my day-to-day job is very like analytical and technical. And I needed, with a Libra rising and Taurus Sun Venus chart, I needed a way to find a creative world to like live and play in. So I think finding those different outlets has been really supportive for my life.
Your chart is so interesting, like, because we mentioned at the start, like the huge 8th house emphasis, and then also like your North Node and your Mars in the 12th house. I'm trying to think of like a good question to ask around this, but I just feel like people may look at a chart and be like, oh my God, you have
so many bad placements.
Yeah, bad placements. Is that something that felt like, I don't know, you were like fixated on when you started learning astrology and you're like, oh my God, my chart's awful. And then you've come to realize, oh no, this is actually like kind of makes sense with my life?
I think that's a question that a lot of people come to me. They're like, I have this placement. Am I doomed? Or this is a really bad placement. But for me, I don't know if I looked at it like that to begin with. I probably like wasn't even aware that they were bad placements. I just learned about them in isolation to my chart. And the way that I went about it was like, these are the challenges that I might face, and your chart is really set up in a way for you to find the strengths out of that and work it in a way where you're like working through challenges, and then that's how you grow and evolve.
I feel like those difficult chart placements, like the Saturn in the 7th, Chiron in the 1st, Moon and Venus in the 8th, is what like initially drew me and got me so obsessed with astrology in the first place. Because it was like always those parts of my personality I couldn't quite put a finger on, but I knew it was like different. and then reading about those, just like even just Googling what does Venus in the 8th house mean, it just like all clicked.
I think that was probably the same for me. It was finally putting words and articulating how I felt in certain ways and giving it a reason and meaning behind having those difficult experiences, like as a kid or growing up.
Yeah. We've spent a lot of time talking about Mars, Saturn, and Chiron. I want to touch upon Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto too, because if I were to think about, okay, what parts of the chart might be more challenging for people, those 3 come to mind. Though they're not as like personal to you, it still is like, I think of kind of Uranus and Neptune. I have those like conjunct in my chart, so it's kind of like one, same energy in the same house. But noticing maybe where things don't feel as stable, or there's a lot of like deep transformation or kind of themes of loss, specifically with Pluto. Do you find where those are placed in your chart are harder areas for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I have Pluto in the 3rd house in Sag, and it's actually squaring my moon pretty almost exact.
You mean opposite?
Opposite, yeah.
Yeah. But square, is it square your Mars too? You have a T-square?
I think it's at 5 degrees, so not quite squaring Mars, but opposite the moon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And growing up, 3rd house there's so much of an emphasis around like neighbors, siblings, your like day-to-day community. And I moved around a lot in my early upbringing, so there was just a lot of change, grief, and like a lot of movement happening, which is also connected to Sagittarius. So that could have been a way that like a more difficult aspect of that played out.
Do you feel like Pluto is easier as you get older? Because I have a similar thing with Pluto in the 4th house, like family being really difficult as a child and like a lot of like upheaval and hard situations there. But now I don't really notice that as an adult. Maybe maybe like I'll have a different opinion when I get to reach my Pluto square in a few years, but I don't know. I'm wondering if there is a pattern of like you get the hard stuff with Pluto earlier on.
I think that makes sense. And something I've noticed with other Libra risings specifically, there's a lot of instability or just like upheaval occurring around 3rd house themes early on.
With people that are Libra rising and have Pluto and Sag.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
But I'm trying to think. I think it has definitely gotten easier, and I don't think I think about 3rd house themes as much on a day-to-day basis.
As being like challenging.
As being challenging.
What about, do you have Uranus and Neptune in different signs?
I have Neptune in the 4th house, which...
In Capricorn.
In Capricorn.
Okay.
I think the way that that's manifested is... specifically on my mom's side of the family, they're pretty into spirituality, and that is something that has been a theme since my childhood.
And like passed down to you, because your mom has that interest in astrology, now you do. That's really interesting.
So maybe that's a way that that's played out. Yeah. And then Uranus in the 5th.
How do you read that? That's kind of a hard one.
It's almost conjunct Jupiter. So I think 5th house topics of like expressing my creativity and having creative outlets is something that's just been really crucial to my happiness. And I think that's how I read that.
Yeah, kind of also having maybe more independent creative outlets.
Yeah.
Or being like really unique in that way. I'm trying to think of my own, like having Uranus and Neptune in the 6th house. I don't notice it so much as being hard with work, but more so like having a hard time following routine and like structure. Like it is really hard for me to wake up early and like do the same routine every day.
And you're lucky you're not in a corporate job, so you can set your own unique routine that works, which is very Uranus.
Yeah. Wait, this is so interesting. And that, I was going to say that happened in the lead up to my Saturn return. Because I wanted to touch there's something else about Saturn I wanted to talk about for a second. But yeah, also with health stuff, I don't like have a lot of health issues in general as a person, but I do find that when I have something more serious with Neptune in the 6th, it's like hard to like diagnose, or it's like something very weird often where like no one knows an answer to it.
I can relate to that with having Neptune just leaving
transit the 6th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a period of time, depending on where other planets were, when they would activate that transit Neptune, I would have the most confusing illnesses come up where no one could really figure it out at first, and just a lot of needing to find holistic treatments that worked. So, for example, I had jaundice a few years ago.
That was crazy.
Which was in 2022. And I think at the same time, Jupiter might have also been.
It was the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces.
So it was really confusing. For the first 2 weeks, we didn't really know what had happened. But this meal delivery service that I was using, one of their items was contaminated. So me and whoever else ordered that developed jaundice, which is really rare.
This is like a fated illness that you got.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah, that also brings up an interesting point of like how I guess Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, they've all changed signs in a huge way very recently. And like Neptune now with Aries, I wonder if you'll get kind of that sometimes confusing element, or like, do I need to set better structure here now in your 7th house, and like seeing how it's just affecting that one area for a little bit of time.
Yeah, we'll see. I think also with Neptune, it was squaring my midheaven and then ascendant angle. So Neptune transits trigger a lot of just confusion in your life path in general.
Yeah.
Is what I've noticed from that.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I'll have it on my midheaven when it goes to Taurus. So I'm a little worried about what happens to career at that point. But I had it, I guess, most recently. The major aspect it made was Neptune conjunct Venus, my midheaven ruler. And I just do remember at that time, okay, what am I supposed to be doing with career? Or feeling like frustrated, kind of like, what's the long-term picture here?
And with Neptune, you're wanting to chart a new, dreamier, more idealistic vision for wherever it's hitting.
Yeah, exactly. And then with Uranus, to contrast, that's more about, I associate Uranus not in a super negative way, more like eye-opening new experiences, or like wanting greater freedom in that part of your life.
I think I agree. Uranus to me feels a lot more like a creative breakthrough, or something that shakes the foundation of where you're standing in a way that opens up a new path that's more independent, more innovative, and it breaks you out of the whatever was boring. Yeah.
I would take a Uranus transit over a Neptune any day.
Same.
Have you had a big Pluto transit happen in your adult life? Because I'm currently having Pluto. It's stationed retrograde, like almost on my sun. And I am noticing it's more subtle. It's kind of like I'm tapping into a bigger like personal power or like self-confidence. So I'm not experiencing Pluto in a negative way. More so like, why have I never figured this out about myself before now? Like,
that's so interesting. Yeah. I feel like the Aquarius suns, it's going to be really important to look at what they're working on and what they're putting out in the world, because with that Pluto transforming their like underlying goals and identity, it'll be interesting to almost pay attention to.
Peeling back, I mean, like, this is who you really are.
Yeah.
Like, lean into that.
I love that. That's really exciting.
Speak to me in a couple years. Maybe something really dramatic and awful does happen under a Pluto transit, but so far it has been like empowering and I feel better.
Wait, that's really hopeful.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've had a big Pluto transit. Right now it's transiting through the 5th and is close to trining my ascendant, but I think it's already past that point.
I guess your last major one would have been Pluto square your ascendant, but that would have been like, because you have such an early Libra rising, maybe that was like 2009, 2010. That's a while ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was in middle school.
You'll have to think on that. See if you went through any like personal upheaval or like something dramatic.
Probably.
Yeah. You also mentioned how you don't love Mars retrograde. Because we have that coming up, I guess we're in like almost June now. When was that Mars retrograde? That's January 10th. Mm-hmm. So 6, 7 months from now, what challenges do you find surface with Mars retrogrades?
With Mars, the motivation and will to act and do anything is so much harder for me. Mm-hmm. I think it also relates back to that Mars in the 12th, where this is already something that's confusing to grasp. Mm-hmm. And then when it's emphasized through a retrograde, that energy just feels a lot more daunting and frustrating, slow. Those are the themes that I notice in general.
Yeah, I notice it's hard to pinpoint where to direct your energy. Like, there's often a lot of ideas that surface in whatever house it's about to station retrograde in, right before the retrograde starts. But then it's like, something about this doesn't feel totally right. And you kind of spend the rest of the retrograde being like, how do I get this right? Like, how does it feel best and aligned?
Big restructuring that needs to go on through, and conflicts will arise through the retrograde that you're so frustrated and annoyed by.
Yeah.
But you were kind of expecting it because you know that this area needed to be reworked in some way. A really interesting example I was thinking of with Mars retrograde is the last Mars retrograde was in Cancer in
Leo to Cancer.
2024.
It started the very last month of 2024. I believe it started early December of 2024. And then
I think so,
lasted until late February of 2025.
What was interesting, I was looking at Kendrick Lamar's chart.
Libra rising.
And his natal Cancer Mars placement.
In his 10th.
In his 10th okay. was hitting that chart placement. And that was aligned with his like Super Bowl performance, his conflict with Drake, all of that.
Yeah. But a lot more public attention.
So much public attention. And I think he actually found a way to harness his natural Mars in the 10th in a productive way that like put him in this big spotlight.
Even though like the retrograde can make things feel slow down and frustrating, it does cause a lot to happen in that house of your chart. Like, more is going on there naturally. Even in like the year leading up to the retrograde happening, you're seeing this stage set for like what's to occur. Like, I'm thinking back, what's one? I just remember like having Mars retrograde in Aries in 2020. That was September to November of 2020. Mm-hmm. And that was my 9th house. And like, even before that retrograde started, it was like, I was obsessed with learning about like spirituality and like going deeper with astrology and like psychic abilities and all of this stuff. It was just a theme for the year. And it just got more and more concentrated when that retrograde began.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That was, I feel like Mars, there's so much emphasis prior to the retrograde and then also after, because you're restructuring whatever it's worked through. And a lot of times there'll be relationships or things that get ended or cut off during that retrograde.
Yeah.
In 2020 for me was the last time, I think right during that Mars retrograde was when I ended this year-long situationship that I was in.
So and that was a 7th house retrograde. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I had a 7th house Mars retrograde when it was in Aquarius in 2018. That was Aquarius Capricorn Mars retrograde, summer of 2018. And this guy that I had been involved with since college kept coming back post-grad so many times. Mm-hmm. That was the final time. It was that like, you're done.
The same for me. It was a cycle repeating, constantly thinking about relationships. And then finally during the Mars retrograde, it was over for good.
Okay, yeah. So do you already, because the next one coming up, January 10th to April 1st of 2027, that will start in Virgo, your 12th, and end in Leo, your 11th. Are you already seeing 12th, 11th house themes? Like, just the closer we get to that starting, be more, I don't know, even if they're not frustrating yet, because the retrograde still hasn't started, just a greater emphasis on them?
I think there is definitely an 11th house emphasis that I feel coming into play, which also relates to Jupiter
and the South Node.
And the South Node moving there. It just seems like 11th house and my connections, people that I'm around, are becoming more important. So hopefully that doesn't cause too much conflict. But
I loved a Mars retrograde in the 11th house.
Okay.
I had that when it was Gemini in 2022. I felt like more people were supportive. It was a great time for building an audience for my business. Like it just came so much more easily, especially once the retrograde was in effect.
Okay, that's hopeful.
Yeah, that's one of the more positive ones, I would say, is an 11th house. But it could bring up tension with friends.
And then 12th, it's gonna...
12th, I didn't love.
I think I'm just gonna want to be alone.
Yeah, or a huge emphasis on wellness, which you've already experienced with the eclipses there. But with the 12th house retrograde, it was like the first time in my life I had worked out like in the morning, like every day. Like I'd never done that.
I'm not doing that right now, so maybe I'll start.
Yeah. So I have the retrograde will start in my second house and go back to my first. And I already see the themes being set up of like, okay, I'm going through this huge first house life change. I'm becoming a mom ahead of that retrograde starting. How does that change my business and how I make money and what I prioritize in my business? And I feel like I'll spend a ton of that retrograde reflecting on it, and then once it ends in April, it'll be like, this is what we're doing with work now.
Yeah, and with Mars, it's probably going to be about where should I direct my energy in a way that's most productive and intentional, because I have a baby too.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm already thinking about that, even though the retrograde is so far away still. So
that makes sense.
One other thing with the difficult planets, Saturn, Mars, Chiron, all this stuff we've been talking about, I wanted to go over like how not only the Saturn natal placement in your chart, so like for you have Saturn and Aries, but also the houses ruled by Saturn. So your 4th house is ruled by Capricorn, your 5th house is ruled by Aquarius, both associated with Saturn. Do you see those getting that same influence that your 7th house has, or is it a bit easier?
Yeah, I think with the 4th house, the idea of home and family was constantly changing. We were moving a lot growing up. So it was hard to have like a steady foundation of just where we were living, our physical home.
That could also be the Neptune in the 4th house too.
Yeah, that also makes sense.
Yeah.
And then with the 5th house, I think with my creative projects and endeavors, that's always been something I've been super drawn to and super interested in the arts. But there was also this perfectionist tendency of taking it very seriously, not wanting to show anyone what I've created because I'm so hypercritical and taking it super seriously.
Yeah, like everything has to be perfectly done before I put it out there, but then you don't end up putting anything out because it's never perfect enough.
Exactly.
I wonder if like during your Saturn return, the topic of maybe moving or home and family gets addressed, or I don't know, gaining more confidence in creative stuff.
Yeah. What about you? How have you noticed Saturn?
Because Saturn already is in one of the signs that rules 7th Aquarius for me. But I did notice a lot of 6th house themes come up during my Saturn return because that's ruled by Capricorn. Health. I'm someone that just never took care of my body in my early 20s, like eats whatever, doesn't really work out. That all had to change at the Saturn return because I had like health problems come up. And I was just like, oh, it actually is cool to exercise and like take care of myself. I don't notice the Saturn so much with works. The 6th house, like negative work stuff, I don't notice it as much. I would say maybe like figuring out what work is worth my time and energy was a big Saturn return theme.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. And like, how was I overextending myself and doing too much work for other people instead of like what I actually care about?
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to call that out because it's like not only the Saturn placement is important at the Saturn return, but also the 2 houses ruled by Saturn.
And I definitely feel that emphasis coming in where I'm thinking about what I want in like a long-term home, and also trying to be less of a perfectionist with creative projects and putting things out there before it feels like it's fully ready.
It'll be cool to check back in with you in 2028 and be like, what's changed?
Hopefully.
I wanted to end by talking about what are just some other, is there anything we haven't touched upon that's like a challenging transit that we could talk through? I'm trying to think.
Maybe it's top of mind because Saturn just moved through my 6th house, but we've already talked a lot about 6th house.
But 6th and 12th, transits in general. Yeah, I mean, 12th, the hardest thing I notice is like falling outs with people or like things ending or things like not, I don't know, being forced to slow down against my will, I would say.
I can relate to that with the nodes being in the 12th.
Yeah. What do you find more difficult? 12th house transit, 8th house, or 4th house?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question.
This is the question of the century.
I would say not 8th because maybe that's tied to Venus and the sun being there, but 8th house feels more comfortable and like a natural place for me to be. What I find really challenging is 12th house and 4th.
Okay.
Because
Why?
Both of those feel like I'm going very internal and spending a lot of time alone. 12th, I think I can have a tendency to spiral and really like overthink. And then 4th, it just feels like nothing is really happening when I want to be out or doing things.
Yeah.
But it feels a lot slower.
My 4th is ruled by Scorpio, and I do notice that's the period of the year I dislike the most. It's like, I just hate that internal slow period of the year. Whereas I could say the same about Cancer season because that's my 12th. I don't know. I'm going to have to go with 12th as my least favorite, though. Just because it's like you're not, as a Leo rising, I don't like not being seen. Like you're literally hidden with transits through the 12th. And it's, the harder you try, it's like nothing.
Yeah.
You could put so much stuff out there and try to get so much going and it's just not going to pan out.
You just have to wait until it enters the first.
It's like a lesson in patience. Yeah.
Totally.
So I would say those are trickier houses for stuff to go through. Also, yeah, one thing I did want to bring up is like transits that might be overhyped. So like what are transits you're like, oh, I expected this to go so well, but nothing really happened.
The one that comes to mind is Jupiter. Jupiter puts so much emphasis where you're thinking about whatever house it's in, but it doesn't really like materialize into anything per se.
It has to be backed up by something else.
For other planets to enter and meet Jupiter, or it's just this like cloud of anticipation and waiting for things to happen there.
Yeah, like you've had Jupiter in your 10th house and it's kind of been like, okay, when are things really going to grow more with career? That I felt the same way with Jupiter in my 10th. It was like something I looked forward to so much and then it felt almost just too overwhelming with work, but not in a good way.
Totally. I think Jupiter almost puts too much energy into something, but it doesn't really like ground it in anything. So it's
interesting.
There's this energy overload where you're spending a lot of time focusing on wherever it's in your chart, but it doesn't always materialize. And sometimes it's just there to give you a new perspective. I have an example of one of my friends is a Capricorn rising, and she just went through this relationship with Jupiter in her 7th house.
Yeah.
And then it didn't end up materializing into something serious, which she was really hoping for.
Okay, interesting.
And I think that's so typical of Jupiter. It like introduced her to someone she wouldn't normally date, and she ended up really clicking with them. But then it just ended up fizzling.
I think like there has to be Saturn there for there to be like firm commitment with something.
I think so.
Which is why I like Saturn more as a transit. Even though it's really hard in the moment, like it actually, stuff gets done with Saturn.
That, I think I agree with that.
Yeah. Is there a favorite Saturn or Jupiter transit you have?
Now looking back, Saturn moving through my 5th house in the moment felt really difficult. And it was also at the same time as COVID. I was going through a lot of lessons in romance, dating, and also spending so much time watercoloring every day, which felt very Saturn, like you have to do this every day.
Yeah.
But looking back, I think a lot of that was really helpful and taught me so many valuable lessons in all of those areas.
Yeah, Saturn through the 5th was fun for me too. It was like, this is how, I don't know, I like had so much fun like blogging, because this was back in like 2015, like different era on social media, like finding my creative voice. I also love Saturn in the 7th, so I wonder how you'll feel at the end of that. I've liked Saturn in the 7th a lot more than Saturn in the 8th or the 6th.
That makes sense. I think so far I like it better than Saturn in the 6th, but we'll see how my Saturn return plays out.
And my favorite Jupiter transit is Jupiter in the 9th and Jupiter in the 5th.
Jupiter,
and the 3rd.
Jupiter in the 9th is when I began DJing and cosmic cocktails at the same time.
It's such a fun transit.
It went over my moon in the 9th.
Yeah, it's like expansive. Like you're excited to learn and experiment. Oh, I love that. Well, we could go on forever, like talking about random stuff, but this has been such a nice chat. Thank you for coming on, Maxine.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so special to be on.
Where can people find you, book your services, everything?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram as just Maxine Twigg, and they can find me there, and I have a website.
Cosmic Cocktails are what your readings are called.
Yes.
Love. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.